A farewell to a hero, to say goodbye to police officer Ronald Singh.
Ron, thank you. Thank you for being the man that we all want to be.
He wanted to be a law enforcement police officer in America. He wanted justice, and justice will be served.
A weekend meeting with Vice President Mike Pence ends with no deal.
The Democrats are never going to give this president the win that he deserves.
They're opposed to this wall because walls work.
Thousands of yellow vest protesters took to the streets of Paris. Security forces fired tear gas and rubber bullets at demonstrators.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren hitting the campaign trail to test the waters for a possible 2020 run.
Now, I can't stop Donald Trump from hurling racial insults. I can be in this fight for all of our family.
Anxious moments, anxious here in Arlington.
Not true. I've dunked like that before, though.
You have?
On the 6-foot hoop in my driveway.
I'm going to need to see that on video.
You want to see that on video?
We need to see it. Nothing happened unless it's on tape.
After the show, I might go home and do a 360
I would
dunk
do
like
that on the show, but you guys would probably pull the hoop out so I fall, sort of like yesterday.
Charlie Brown style?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at what happened yesterday, I'm on the ball, I'm about to win the competition, and I hear people talking. I'm like, what are they doing?
About to win.
They go from 50 miles per hour.
I will say, I was there, and it was... it was someone hit the throttle on
We'll
Ed.
play you the video later.
And immediately, he was
Listen, we got to make sure you can handle the tough stuff, Ed. You know,
Yes,
you're gonna. It's the testing ground for the news.
Well, we've got a lot today. I mean, a lot on immigration, a lot on the news moving forward.
Shutdown
Folks
heading
in
into
Iowa,
week 3.
shutdown into week 3. Not a lot of progress being made there. But, you know, sometimes you take a moment and you step back. And you pause and you remember. And, you know, we've covered the story of the killing of police officer Ron Singh in California. Well, his memorial ceremony was yesterday. And, man, was it powerful.
Absolutely. Laying to rest a hero. It was just a powerful tribute, as you say. We had Chief Richardson on this program last Sunday, 1 week ago. He was emotional then. He was certainly emotional yesterday. Among the things he was pointing out was that Ronald Singh was someone who came to this country as a legal immigrant and went out of his way, the chief said, to learn English so he could connect with the community, and so that when he had to make an arrest or he had to give instructions to people about an emergency, they would understand him. Yeah. And so it was just incredibly moving to talk and listen to what they said, the remembrances of his life.
Yeah, the whole country has been mourning this together. And if you've been watching his fellow police officers, it was such a family there. Everyone praising him. Everyone has said such beautiful things about him. And in that photo, I was just going to mention this photo that got flashed across the screen. You truly cannot grieve enough when you see his wife, his beautiful child. And once again, calling attention to the fact that this was completely preventable. And this is the reason why you need enforcement at that border and why you need border security, because even if it's one person here or there, they always say, well, it's not that many incidents. You know what? It's one too many if it's one. This is a guy who had a full life and career ahead of him to give up service to the community, and we all mourn him deeply.
Yeah, the Newman Police Chief, Randy Richardson, who's been on this program, stood at the podium and remembered Officer Ronald Singh. Listen.
He told me he came to this country with one purpose. And that purpose was to become a police officer. He told me about all the pride he had in America and how much it meant to him to be here and to be getting this opportunity. And he told me that he always wore an American flag every time he went to an interview. And he wanted everyone to know that he was proud to be an American. Never did I think we'd be standing here saying goodbye to such a great man. Ron, thank you. Thank you for being the man that we all want to be. Thank you for being the provider that we all strive to be. Thank you for being the police officer, the canine officer, the corporal that everybody should strive to be. We will say goodbye today, but you will always be in our hearts. And we'll take it from here.
Wow. A testament to this moment. Thousands of sheriff's deputies, police officers there in attendance. There were 2 overflow buildings that were packed with people. A 7-mile procession for that officer with blue ribbons wrapped around poles and trees all the way. A community, not just a physical community of that location, but a community of brotherhood of police officers who recognize the patriotism that goes with this service. And you watch these images.
Yeah, and you can see his relatives there in the front row, accepting the flag from the chief. That's his widow. His brother to the left of the widow. Remember, he's emotional there. He was emotional at the news conferences that we saw about a week or so ago. Look, there were also some lighter moments. The chief saying at one point during his remembrance that people who were arrested by Officer Singh have come up to him in recent days and saying, I was arrested by him. I remember when I saw his face, but, you know, he was very professional. He treated me well. I made a mistake, and he had to arrest me, but I remember that man's face.
I've only heard wonderful things about him and what he brought to the community, what he brought to his job every day. I want to remind people that they can visit tunneltotowers.org to donate to the Singh family. Very important. I'm sure they need all of our love, support, and help right now. They would greatly appreciate that.
The sound of those bagpipes, and I had tears in my eyes coming into the show watching all the photos of that service. I mean, it cannot help but impact you. That was a very high-profile moment, and it continues to be followed. And donating, you can give to that family. There was another death that hasn't gotten as much coverage at the hands of an illegal that's reigniting the debate over illegal immigration. As an angel mom, she posted a message about her son. His name is 22-year-old Pierce Corcoran. He was killed in a car crash that was caused by an illegal immigrant. And this is a blog post from his mother, Wendy Corcoran. He was killed on December 29th, so about a week ago, in a car crash. And his mom wrote this. He said, "We are all aware as a family that nothing will bring Pierce back. But don't tell me my son, who lived in this country and followed its rules, doesn't deserve better. For God's sake, out of respect for the men and women who fought and fight to make this country such a desirable place to live, do the right thing and come here legally and become a responsible citizen."
Yeah, and Pete, you said it. I mean, we have focused, and rightly so, in recent days on Officer Singh and that tragedy. Here's another tragedy in Tennessee. And even though we wanted to shine a light on these kinds of stories that people don't often pay attention to, very few people knew about it. It's happening almost in the shadows. People are being killed by illegal immigrants, and it doesn't get national attention. But guess what? The American people know this is a problem. This new poll, your view of illegal immigration, 62% saying it's very serious or somewhat serious of a problem in this country, illegal immigration. 24% say minor problem. 7% say not a problem. 6%, I'm not sure. Well, the 6% that's unsure, but the point is the 7% who say it's not a problem, you have the Democratic leadership in the House and Senate suggesting, by and large, that it's not a problem, not a major problem. They say they're for border security, but in these negotiations, they're not making it the priority that the president is, for sure. That doesn't seem to match up with that poll.
Yeah, we're going to talk to former acting ICE Director Tom Homan live at 6:30 about it. And I think what we're going to find is that the people are on the side of President Trump when it comes to this issue. These stories are incredibly touching. And unfortunately, these horrific tragedies are going to keep happening unless Democrats get on board with this border security and recognizing that the wall is part of the equation. It's not all of the equation. We've talked about several other options, obviously, E-Verify, a number of other things. But that is important, and until they start taking that seriously, people are going to start rebelling and saying, you know what, guys, something needs to be done. These are innocent people in our community that are dying.
Pierce Corcoran was 22 years old from Knoxville, Tennessee, son of the Knoxville fire captain, killed by a 44-year-old illegal who was drunk driving the wrong way. And that's why he was killed. And you said it, Ed. It's almost as if it's happening in the shadows, yet people are affected by it. And they see the basic difference between coming here and investing in your country as a citizen, being here illegally, and hiding from the law.
It's impacting real people in real communities, and it's happening just as the 2020 presidential campaign has already kicked off. And you're going to see some of the left suggesting again that illegal immigration is not a major problem in this country, as the president, as part of his reelect, will certainly make it a top priority. You see right there, Elizabeth Warren, she was pretty much barnstorming the state of Iowa, first in the nation caucuses, of course, and she was getting some pretty good crowds. Maybe it's because she's early. She's out there first among maybe a couple dozen or so Democrats that will be running. But she is trying to take it to President Trump early.
Barnstorming, I don't know the definition of barnstorming, but it's a phrase we use all the time.
You have to officially use it.
She was all around the state, and this is, you're right, she got some decent crowds, nowhere near what President Trump would get, but an indication that there's interest, and Democrats are certainly enthusiastic about options against President Trump. Well, here's part of what she had to say yesterday in Sioux City, Iowa, because her background continues to be a big part of the conversation. Watch.
I am not a person of color. I am not a citizen of a tribe. Tribal citizenship is very different from ancestry. Tribes and only tribes determine tribal citizenship, and I respect that difference. Now, I can't stop Donald Trump from what he's going to do. I can't stop him from hurling racial insults. But what I can do is I can be in this fight for all of our families.
You see her trying to pivot there.
That's tough to listen to, I got to be honest. This is a woman who lied about her ancestry repeatedly. Now she's saying, well, you know, I'm not a woman of color. Really? Well, you didn't object to Harvard University labeling you as such. You didn't object to being listed that way in legal directories for a long period of time at a pivotal point when universities were trying to recruit people based on diversity. I think that's really sinful of her to have deceived the American public like that. And I think that's going to come back to haunt her because people don't like politicians who lie right out of the gate.
No, I mean,
it didn't work very well for Hillary Clinton.
You're right. And Ed, tell me, I mean, honestly, with one word, Pocahontas, it feels like President Trump took all the air out of her balloon.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it. I mean, she's got crowds, but
Probably did in part because what I was going to add, the context there is that she got at least one question I'm aware of from a Democratic voter saying, why did you engage with President Trump on this? You sort of walked into a trap and it backfired on you. So my point being, it's not just the president and his allies jumping on her. It's Democrats saying, what in the world happened here?
Yeah.
Because you've made a mess of this. And so I think to Jedediah's point, it's not that it's going to be an issue in 2020. It already is, and she's made a hash of it.
The bigger issue is going to be her policies, though, because the truth is that when you have the Elizabeth Warrens and the Ocasio-Cortezes and the Bernie Sanders, they promise you a lot of free stuff, a lot of rainbows and unicorns. That stuff does not work out when it comes to practical matters, and it's very easy to debate those people.
She's trying to address it, but as she's addressed it, maybe she's made it worse.
I think you're right. The more you're explaining, you're losing. It's a basic axiom of politics.
Yep.
But I do think she keeps talking about the working man. It's like, well, this is what President Trump has captured. So she's talking about the working man in one sentence and then about global climate change and remaking our economy to fix it in another.
Disappearing middle class, she says, at a time when we had this incredible jobs number.
Report.
It's not just helping the rich. So what do you think about Elizabeth Warren's campaign? Friends at FoxNews.com will be talking about it today.
That's right. We'll be talking about it all morning long, including her favorite beer, which we will get to later. All right. Well, President Donald Trump fights for border wall funding. He's reminding everyone that walls work.
If you really want to find out how effective a wall is, just ask Israel. 99.9% effective. Then our wall will be every bit as good as that, if not better. Look at all of the countries that have walls, and they work 100%.
From Israel to the Vatican, President Trump has pointed out how walls have worked for other countries around the world. So why can't it work for ours?
Joining us now to discuss is former mayor of Shiloh, Israel, David Rubin. David, so great to have you with us. Now, you have at least 77 walls across the globe right now. I want to talk to you in particular, though, about Israel. Obviously, we're in a fierce debate about border security and a wall in the United States right now. What are the stats on the efficiency of the walls and fences actually built in Israel?
Well, if you want to understand whether walls work, Israel is a tremendous example because we have two different kinds of walls that have been built in the past couple of decades. So let's first look at the wall in Judea and Samaria, the so-called West Bank, which is the mountainous region that's north of Jerusalem and south of Jerusalem. So in Judea and Samaria, between the year 2000 and the year 2005, there were over 1,000 terrorist attacks in Israel, over 1,000 people killed in terrorist attacks, I should say. And there were several thousand who were wounded in terrorist attacks. Actually, I myself was wounded, shot and wounded in a terrorist attack along with my 3-year-old son who was shot in the head. So the terrorism was so intense, and every day people didn't know if they were going to be able to get to work or the children were going to get to school. It was a terrible situation. Israel's government decided to build a wall separating the major cities of Israel from Samaria and Judea. And so a wall was built, part of it of concrete, but most of it from very, very strong steel, It was a high wall, and it had barbed wire as well as high-tech measures, and it was very, very effective. It cut down on terrorism in Israel's cities by 95% even. So it was very, very effective. And to this day, we don't have major terrorist attacks in the big cities in Israel. Now, if you look at the southern border that separates Egypt and Israel, down there was a problem of illegal immigration. So the issue was a little bit different. It was illegal immigration as opposed to terrorism.
Yep.
But the illegal immigration was causing a lot of crime. And 55,000 immigrants came in from the southern border between the years 2000 and 2012. A wall was built, actually mostly fenced, but physical barrier, very strong physical barrier on the entire southern border. And in the first year that it was built, the illegal entry into Israel was cut down to almost to nothing, and in the year after they raised the level and it was cut completely. So, I mean, David, we got to leave it right there, but I've been to Shiloh. The terrain there is very diverse. A wall there stopped terrorism in the so-called West Bank, Judea and Samaria, and then in the southern border, on the Egyptian border, illegal immigration was rampant. You build a wall, you build it taller. Capital murder in the shooting death of 7-year-old Jasmine Barnes. Authorities say Eric Black Jr. admitted his involvement in the drive-by shooting in Houston. Investigators believe it was a case of mistaken identity and say more people could be charged. The arrest comes hours after a rally calling for justice for Jasmine. And for the first time in history, the top 3 jobs at the CIA are held by women. The agency's first female director, Gina Haspel, has named Cynthia Rapp as Deputy Director of Analysis. She'll oversee the department that brings in intelligence and puts it into context. Haspel previously named Elizabeth Kimber as Deputy Director of Operations. Women now fill the agency's top 3 spots. Ed,
pretty cool. Thanks, Pete. Democrats may have a newfound control of Congress, at least the House, but they can't seem to decide on a strategy to take on the president, especially when it comes to calls for impeachment.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
Impeachment is a very divisive approach to take, and we shouldn't take it for anything other than the facts and the law.
The thing we can do that most shows respect for the office is to not have someone there who has committed high crimes and misdemeanors on the one hand and is hurting the country on the other.
It's too early to talk about that intelligently. We have to follow the facts. We'll see where the facts lead, and maybe that'll lead to impeachment, maybe it won't.
Donald Trump is either going to be impeached by the Congress or impeached at the ballot box.
So what should the Democrats' focus be for the next two years? Here to debate, Teslin Figueroa, former Bernie Sanders campaign staffer, and Dr. Susan Johnson Cook, a Democratic strategist who served in both the Clinton and Obama administrations. Welcome to both of you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning.
Susan, what's your thought on whether the president should be impeached or not?
You know, it's not for me to say right now. I think that all of the voices said we have a most diverse Congress ever. I think, you have to have the facts in order, as Nancy Pelosi said, and you have to move strategically and not emotionally. So I think you get your facts, and then you have to come together with the voices. The new Congress just started, 2 days ago. I think we have a ways to go before we really determine who's going to be impeached and who's not.
Well, that is a very rational, reasoned way to approach it. But Teslin, it doesn't seem like actual members of Congress who would have a vote in all of this are treating it that rationally. We just played that clip of the one congresswoman using the profanity and saying, let's go get him, essentially. Others introducing articles of impeachment. Where do you stand?
Well, I mean, just like she was just saying, it's the most diverse Congress that we've had in our history. It sounds good to say we shouldn't react with emotion, but these folks were elected on emotion. A lot of people were elected on emotion, on a lot of divisiveness, on we're going to go get them. That was their founding platform. Now, here's the trick. They have to be able to go in and actually do it. It's one thing to show up as a freshman at high school on the first day, but you got to be able to back it up. So to me personally, I think you need to get in and actually know what you're talking about, know what you can and cannot do, because if you do not do what you say you're going to do, then once again, you failed your voters, and they will too be impeached, from the ballot box, not being able to deliver on promises.
But to your point that they were elected on emotion and folks who wanted them maybe to impeach the president, we've got a clip of what Democrats said they were running on just a couple months ago. Watch.
the top priority for the Democrats, if we're lucky enough to take control of the House and the Senate, is to make sure that we respond to issues that working families across America really care about.
Democrats just have to work hard to emphasize jobs, health care, education.
Congress needs to express an independent voice and to advance policies that help our people.
We will continue to focus on the things that really matter to the people of our country, which are an economy that works for everybody and health care.
Susan, where's the focus on the economy and healthcare?
You know, the bottom line is when you're campaigning, you put many issues out there. I don't think the GOP is in any position to attack the Democrats. Nobody speaks in a monolithic voice. You speak as a candidate, and then now you're in office. You have to learn the game, and you have to come together. So it is the most diverse Congress. I'm going to stress that again. GOP is not in any position to attack Democrats, for they campaigned, and many left and defected. So now the House is on the Democratic side. So I don't think anyone's in a position to down the Democrats. I think we look at how does the country come together.
Well, Susan, I don't think anyone's downing the Democrats. I think we're just we're wondering, which is it? They said they wanted to fix health care. They wanted to run on the economy. They were going to focus on, as you just heard, Dick Durbin and other leaders in the Congress, not random members. We want to focus on kitchen table issues. And then let me just show you what they've actually introduced. Articles of impeachment, presidential candidates required to release tax returns, a Mueller protection bill, and abolishing the Electoral College. They may be important priorities for the Democrats, but this is not, Teslin, what you ran on.
Well, this is just the reality. Let me just keep it real in the field. All year long, this will be a game of tit for tat. This will be a game of subpoenas. This will be a game of going after President Trump and Republicans alike. And President Trump made it clear, too, that when you send him a subpoena, he'll be sending one back. So it sounds good to say you ran on those issues and we'll be focusing on those issues. But that's not the reality. We have an entire year full of divisiveness, not just with Republicans against Democrats, but also within the Democratic Party. Progressives who were elected will be going against center Democrats who want to do things different in two different generations.
Susan,
we'll
quick
constantly
last point.
be feuding all year round.
My quick last point is play the clips of the GOP who ran for office. Some of them lost. And so we have a Democratic House now that's, in favor. So let's look at what we can do to get the country together. It's time for no more divisiveness.
We'll see if they bring them together or not. Susan Teslin, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
All right, let us know what you think. Friends at FoxNews.com. Democrats focusing on the issues you care about, or are they all about going after the president? Meanwhile, the president says the wall's coming. You see it there. But now the New York Times claims the president never really wanted a border wall. Was it just a campaign ploy? Are you buying it? We'll ask former acting ICE director Tom Homan. He knows whether the president's serious about it or not. He's next. Plus, remember when the NYPD saved an engagement ring that fell through a grate right here in Times Square? Guess what? It happened again. We're not making this up. The new ring. Just shot of the morning. I went to Mike's Deli on Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. There's 5 boroughs here in New York City. I'm from Queens. Jedediah is from Staten Island.
Yeah.
Pete's favorite socialist is from the Bronx, of course.
Oh, mine?
I have a buddy. I call him Barry from Brooklyn. He took me to Arthur Avenue. He's Italian. That is David Greco, whose family has owned Mike's Deli forever. Here's the key. They have these monster sandwiches, great. It's basically Little Italy in the Bronx. And Father Jonathan's parish, I understand, is right down the street.
Oh, wow.
And there's Dave Greco. He's holding up the Trump sandwich. It's huge, first of all. It has all American ingredients, all American turkey, all American cheese. But he made clear to me he's bipartisan. He said, we've got a Hillary sandwich. Oh. And he said, it's made with salami that's cut crooked like her. So when I heard that, I said, I got to bring Jed and Pete over there.
Oh, yeah, we got to go.
I think we got to go to Arthur Avenue.
I
would love to. Let's do it.
You got to have the Hillary sandwich, though.
I'll try them both.
So on a future Saturday, we're going to do a little field trip to Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. We're going to try the Trump sandwich, the Hillary sandwich, and we'll report back on Sunday
we'll let you know
morning.
which one wins.
Okay.
Which sandwich wins.
Straight, by the way, instead of straight out of Compton, straight out of Arthur Avenue.
Woo!
I was going to get it for you, Pete, but you never get me gifts, so I'm going to keep it.
Sometime this year, Ed. Hold your breath. We'll get you one. All right, good stuff. We'll make that trip. Let's bring in now Tom Homan, Fox News contributor, former acting director of ICE. Tom, you're a big dude. You could probably take down that Trump sandwich, right?
I'm going to bring
comment. No comment. We get comments on everything else. We can't get it on the Trump sandwich. Mr. Director, though, break down where we are right now. We saw the president tweet yesterday, the wall is coming, a Game of Thrones picture. We're in our third week now of this partial shutdown. It seems like talks yesterday didn't really go anywhere. The president insisting they want their $5.7 billion. Your insight into where we are in this showdown.
I think President Trump's doing the right thing. I talked to him last week. He's not going to give up on the wall. This wall is important to him. Look, I've worked for 6 presidents. He's the first president that not only says he's going to address illegal immigration during a campaign, but he put it front and center while he's president. You know, last week, Nancy Pelosi said the wall was immoral. You know what's immoral is the congressional leaders that they put their hatred for this president and their desire not to give him a win on the border ahead of their number one responsibility, which is to protect this country. What they fail to understand is a win on the border by the president is a win for America. I mean, securing our nation, that's a win. That's a win for everybody.
Tom, obviously getting a lot of pushback from the left, pushback from the media. You had Jason Johnson over on another network calling the wall a monument to white nationalism. Let's take a listen and get your reaction.
That the president wants is a monument to white nationalism. Anybody who agrees to give any money to this wall is foolish. And by the way, as I have said all along, Donald Trump said that Mexico was going to pay for the wall. So unless he gets a check from Lopez Obrador, I don't see why Democrats have any reason to have a conversation with him.
White nationalism, Tom?
Look, it's ridiculous. Why is securing our border? Why is that racist in any way you can think of? Look, securing our border is the right thing to do. We're protecting Americans. And when I was the ICE director, we removed people to 140 different countries, not just Latin America, not just African nations, but European nations. Securing the border has nothing to do with racism. Securing the borders has to do with keeping criminals out of this country, keeping drugs out of this country, and protecting Americans. That's what the wall is all about. There's nothing about racism with the wall. It's ridiculous.
Tom, there's an interesting take, at least, I use the word interesting loosely, in the New York Times this morning, suggesting that this is really just a symbol for the president, and he's boxed himself in, that going back to the campaign, they just used the wall, his campaign staff, to get him to stick to script, because it was something that lit up his rallies. They say in part in this story, as Mr. Trump began exploring a presidential run in 2014, his political advisors landed on the idea of a border wall as a way of a device of sorts, a way to make sure their candidate would remember to talk about getting tough on immigration, which was to be a signature issue in his nascent campaign. They go on to say, having spent more than 4 years, first as the candidate, then as president, whipping his core supporters into a frenzy over the idea of building a border wall, Mr. Trump finds himself in a political box of his own making. I know you weren't directly involved in the campaign. You had a job, you had a day job back then. But talk about this president's commitment. Is it just a ploy, as they suggest?
No, it's not. I've had many conversations with the president during my year and a half as the ICE director. Like I said, I just talked to him last week. He's never moved off the need for a wall. He has looked at the data, which Democrats fail to do, right? If you look at the data, every place they put a border barrier, every place, 100% of the time, illegal immigration declined, illegal drug smuggling in that sector declined. It has proven effective every place they built it. He has seen that data. And that's what I wish. I wish at this point he'd go around Schumer and Pelosi and talk to the American people, have a presidential address, and show them the data around the wall, how the wall has been successful 100% of the time, a barrier, and talk about the number of criminals, the number of drugs that are coming across that border, and speak directly to the American people. Because I really think when America hears the truth, what's going on that border, when they actually see the effectiveness of the wall, more people are going to push the Democratic leadership to give the president the $5 billion he's seeking.
Yeah, that article in the New York Times was from their news analysis section. This is where their news opinion pretends to be not news by peddling opinion. Anyway, there's a new poll out we had to get your take on. It's about Americans who wish to leave America. The poll says that 20% of women, 13% of men, 30% of Americans under the age of 30 years old would leave or would like to leave America at some point. So last time I checked, there's not a wall to leave if you want. And a lot of the news is pointing that this is the fact that they don't like Trump.
Well, look, I don't understand that at all. I think for this president who has taken on kneeling during the national anthem, his number one responsibility and his number one goal is protect this nation. I mean, this president wants the America back that you and I both grew up in. The America that's present right now is divided. I haven't seen a country like this. But he's trying to get America back where people are honored to be Americans, that he's trying to protect his country. He wants a rule of law. In the last decade, we forgot about the rule of law, right? ICE agents weren't even allowed to enforce the law. But now we got a president who says, you know what, you're going to do your job, you're going to enforce the law, we're going to secure the border, we're going to protect Americans. I don't understand these people that hate Trump so much. They're forgetting about what America is really all about.
Well, they've been told in our schools that America's a bad place, too. That's a problem. It all adds up, and pretty soon they want to go somewhere else.
It's just incredible, right?
Amazing.
We're the greatest country on earth. We got millions of people trying to come to this country legally and illegally. Can't be that bad.
Well, because they've seen the alternative. To those Americans that want to leave, I say bye-bye. All right, Tom Homan, thank you very much for your time this morning. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're going to turn now to some headlines for you this morning, starting with a Fox's alert. A police officer is shot and killed in the line of duty. Authorities in Utah say the officer was trying to arrest a fugitive outside a store in Orem when the shooting happened. The suspect is in the hospital with minor injuries. Police plan to release the fallen officer's name at a news conference this afternoon. A teenage girl accused of stealing a police cruiser and taking it for a joyride. You can see the vehicle weaving through yards in Michigan going up to 50 miles an hour. Police say the girl jumped in the car when two officers got out to chase a suspect. The teen faces felony charges. New York's finest rings in the new year by rescuing what else? Another engagement ring. The NYPD retrieving this diamond, wow, it's a beauty, after it slipped off a woman's finger and threw a Manhattan grate. Police returned the ring to its owner.
That's great.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. If I lost my ring, I'd be losing it. This comes weeks after a newly engaged British couple lost their ring through a grate in Times Square. Those are your headlines. Can you imagine losing an engagement ring? I mean, this thing never leaves my finger.
No, but don't get on a knee on a grate.
That's true.
That's just,
That's
I mean, but you know, if you're in the moment, you're probably not paying attention to
Yeah,
that.
you're
So I
feeling it,
kind
you're
of-
stressed out.
All right. I have some empathy. All right. Comedian Kevin Hart turning down pleas to host the Oscars after facing backlash over controversial tweets. Lawrence Jones has a message for what he calls the outrage mob. Coming up next.
Plus, Dave Bossy, Charles Payne, and Dan Bongino, they are all here live.
Two more NFL wildcard games to watch. The Chargers face the Ravens, and defending Super Bowl champs, the Eagles, playing in Chicago. And last night, the Colts dominated.
Let's go, Dak! Let's go, Dak!
This is where I hand it off to my colleagues.
Thank you, Ed. Well, let's just bring him in. Lawrence Jones, you were not excited at all, were you?
Well, you know, it's been a long time coming for us Cowboys fans, so America's team fans are happy.
Wait, it's been since 2015, Lawrence, so a lot of us have waited a lot longer than that. So I don't feel much pain for you, but congratulations.
Congratulations.
It's a good win.
Thanks, guys.
Lawrence, we want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on with Kevin Hart and Ellen DeGeneres. I have been losing my mind over this. I fully supported Ellen and her desire to get some redemption for this guy who apologized numerous times. What do you make of this whole fiasco and the way the mob has reacted to Kevin Hart digging through tweets from 10 years ago that he's already apologized for repeatedly?
Well, I like to call this new mob a wildfire. It's a fire that you can't contain. If you start it, if you put gasoline in it, then it'll hurt people, even yourself or either people that you love. And, you know, the sad thing about this is not about the LGBT community. Any type of issue, any type of past statement that you said in the past, you can be hit for it, and that's sad. You know, Kevin is a loving guy. I believe Ellen is a loving woman, and the fact that they're having to go through this is unacceptable. But you know what? Ellen was a part of the mob at one time too. She attacked Pastor Kim Burrell in the past, and now they're attacking her. They're attacking her friend. So it's unacceptable.
Well,
guys.
here's what, if our folks didn't see it, here's Kevin Hart on Ellen.
That's an attack. That's a malicious attack on my character. That's an attack to end me.
For you to be the bigger man, for you to say, I understand, and to not pay attention. There are so many haters out there. Whatever's going on in the internet, don't pay attention to them. That's a small group of people being very, very loud. We are a huge group of people who love you and want to see you host the Oscars.
Kevin Hart responded on Instagram saying, when did we get to the point where we forgot that we all learn, then we all have the ability to grow, and with that growth comes the wealth of knowledge. You can't change without understanding what growth means. Please grasp this and use it in 2019. Lawrence, it doesn't look like he'll host the Oscars, but maybe we've learned something out of this.
Well, here's the thing. It's by his decision. You know, Kevin is taking us in and saying, look, you know what? I'm done with it. You guys will not control every aspect of my life. I hope Ellen has learned the lesson as well, because people get hurt because of this. You know, I love and respect everyone that's out there, but you know what? We evolve in life, and we should have some grace for people. We shouldn't be destroying careers.
That's right. The outrage mongers will eventually come for you. So you decide when you join that chorus.
It's a
That's
wildfire.
a great point.
You can't control it.
I like that.
And I've heard
wildfire.
you talk about this a lot, saying you can't only defend people that you agree with. It's great to commend Ellen, but every now and then you got to defend somebody on the other side who has apologized, and that's where the real difference comes through. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for being with us.
Lawrence, thank you very much. I hope the Cowboys lose next week, but I love you anyway.
I love you too, bro.
You got it.
How much would you pay for a good night's sleep? Some people would spend up to almost $300, but we've got some cheaper ways.
Is that Ed sleeping?
Coming up next. Look at him. He looks too relaxed.
The amount that people will pay for a perfect night's sleep is mind-boggling. How much would you spend to get the perfect night's sleep?
Well, apparently the average American would pay $290 every night. Here with the best ways to get a great night's sleep that won't cost you a lot of money is sleep expert Ingrid Pruer. Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, we get up really early. These two are already asleep, as you can see. It didn't take much now. I feel like so many Americans are sleep deprived. What can we do in a cost-efficient way to get better sleep? I know I need it.
Yeah, so there's thankfully budget-friendly ways, right? And one of them is essential oils. So essential oils, they're not all the same, so you have to make sure that you're looking at the quality of them with a gas chromatography type of report. Just know that when you're looking for better sleep, you want pure essential oils with high in linalool, which is a terpene. It's an aromatic compound found in essential oils. But not all of them are going to give you great sleep.
What do you do
so
with it?
you want to look at copaiba oil, magnolia oil, who has about 80% linalool in it, in comparison to lavender, which is the one that most commonly known.
Yeah, for people like Pete who don't know, what do you do with
You
it?
can take a drop underneath your tongue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a huge dropper.
He had a small breakfast. Yes, small breakfast. And now you have all these supplements, supplements and these foods as well that you can use. So tell us
these are
about
things
them.
that you can have on hand. Don't wait just right before to go to sleep in order to start eating these healthy, nutritious foods that will also give you what you need, because we want production of melatonin. So you want to eat some dates and some goji berries. You want to even possibly make yourself some tea, like a golden milk.
What about bacon? Any bacon?
Does bacon work? Because that's all that Pete eats.
It's a little heavy to eat at night, so I would not recommend it for sleep. But
my preferred approach is gin and Advil PM.
That's not healthy for people.
Okay, I'm just saying
there
that's what
are
I do.
some
to create
other
healthy
options that might be a little healthier.
And you
for
have some powders here, goji powder, and this is my personal favorite,
Wait, goji
organic,
powder?
pure morning vegetable power. I will be making a smoothie for Pete.
Yeah, this
and bringing it in
moringa
next time.
is as something that is more commonly known now. It's plant-based, it's powdered form. You make it very quickly with some water, and you can have it a good hour before sleep time.
Okay, cool.
And it will get you sleeping.
Well, for more sleeping tips, you have to visit ingridpruer.com. I know you guys are all looking for those. I sure am going to look and see.
Yeah, you
Everyone
can
wants
find
healthy
all of these
alternatives.
things at my sleep shop.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, trying to help these guys out. It's not an easy job.
I got my veggie powder.
All right, well, Jim Carrey is known for his comedy, but his newest work of art, it's outrageous. It compares Trump supporters to apes. The new painting causing controversy this morning. Plus, Dave Bossie, Charles Payne, and Dan Bongino, they are all here. They are all coming up live. You're not going to want to miss it.
This is working.
Till you spend a lot of money.